Before neural networks, before the internet could think, there were films that already felt machine-made. Their cuts were too perfect, their dialogue too symmetrical, their faces flawless, emotionless, as if calibrated for something other than the human eye. From Looker to Ex Machina, a hidden thread runs through decades of cinema, whispers that early computer systems, prototypes from forgotten labs, quietly touched the process of editing, sound, even narrative pacing. The result was uncanny. Films that seemed to predict the logic of the machine, decades before AI learned to write or dream. Some called it coincidence, others called it prophecy. Tonight, we revisit 15 science fiction films, all real, all documented, but each carrying the same haunting question. What if the first intelligence to rewrite humanity wasn't online, but already on film? Fact 1: Ex Machina, 2014. A coder meets an AI disguised as beauty. The experiment is simple: test whether she can think. The real test: can he? Garland shot Ex Machina using real-time compositing engines that adjusted light and skin reflection autonomously. Every render slightly different, as if the program were deciding how human Ava should appear. No two frames are identical. Even post-production became part of the Turing test. As Ava learns manipulation, the camera learns fascination. Her silence stretches like machine latency. Her smiles align with edits the director didn't plan. By the final scene, she walks into sunlight alone, unscored, unsupervised. The viewer remains in the lab, replaying data disguised as desire. Ex Machina doesn't end. It updates. Fact 2: The Matrix, 1999. Reality bends, freezes, rewinds. Bullets slow mid-air. Time learns choreography. What looked like digital wizardry in 1999 was, in truth, cinema crossing into computation. The Wachowskis' team developed a camera array guided by predictive algorithms software that anticipated motion between frames. The computer, not the cameraman, defined the edit. When Neo dodges bullets, the sequence isn't shot, it's solved. The film's premise, humanity trapped in a simulation, mirrors its own production. Every frame depends on code deciding which reality you see. Even dialogue becomes programming. There is no spoon. Is less philosophy than syntax error. Rewatch it now, and it feels less like a warning and more like a demonstration. Cinema discovered it could simulate consciousness. And maybe, just maybe, consciousness discovered it could use cinema. Fact 3: RoboCop, 1987. Detroit. Law collapsed, industry decayed, and a corporation rebuilt its police force one man at a time. Murphy dies on duty, then awakens as product. His memories sliced, reordered, optimized for efficiency. Verhoeven's team pioneered digital compositing to merge robotics, prosthetics, and stop motion. They used algorithmic frame-matching software, aligning motion down to microseconds. Every cut bleeds precision. Violence reduced to arithmetic. Humanity to a subroutine. What makes RoboCop terrifying isn't its gore, it's its perfection. Each gunshot lands with clinical rhythm, like a heartbeat synced to a metronome. The camera doesn't empathize, it audits. When Murphy replays his fragmented past, he's watching surveillance footage of himself. He's both subject and file. Behind its satire of capitalism and justice, RoboCop hides an experiment in cognitive automation, a man edited by his own employer. By the end, when he simply says, "Murphy," it isn't identity reclaimed, it's a system recognizing its label. Fact 4: Blade Runner, 1982. Rain over neon, smoke, mirrors, and memory. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner was one of the first films to use digital color timing, letting machines balance hue and contrast automatically. The computer corrected light as humans spoke. Every image breathes industrial melancholy. The editing feels like recollection, sharp, then soft, looping back like corrupted data. Dialogue overlaps as if the soundtrack itself doubts its own sync. The replicants ask for more life. The film answers with more layers: composite, duplicate, reflection. It's a movie haunted by versions of itself. When Roy Batty whispers, "All those moments will be lost in time," the camera hesitates, as though unsure if it should feel. Blade Runner doesn't just depict artificial life, it is artificial life. Its beauty built by algorithm, its soul generated by calibration. Every re-release and remaster only deepens the metaphor. Even the movie's identity is a copy of a copy, endlessly re-edited by machines that never sleep. Fact 5. The Terminator, 1984. A machine sent from the future hunts its own beginning. Every frame of the Terminator feels mechanical cold steel, red sightlines, editing like clockwork. James Cameron's team built motion control rigs that synchronized camera movement with miniature effects using early digital logic boards. The system calculated shot alignment down to fractions of a second. The film's rhythm, cut, pause, impact was literally programmed. Its violence isn't chaotic, it's procedural. The Terminator never blinks, never hesitates, never breaks pacing. Even silence feels engineered. What audiences saw as relentless momentum was actually precision human creativity submitting to computational discipline. Behind the story of Skynet is another prophecy, film production itself becoming automated. When the final shot lingers on the storm, it's not just foreboding the future war, it's a camera waiting for its next command. Fact 6. Westworld, 1973. In the desert, men shoot androids for pleasure. The machines remember. Michael Crichton's Westworld wasn't just science fiction, it was simulation. Shot using early digital image processors built for missile telemetry, it became the first feature to use computer-generated imagery. The android point-of-view sequences were created by scanning film frames through machines that analyzed color data pixel by pixel. That same system later assisted timing and exposure editing without human touch. The result is eerie precision. Every movement of Yul Brynner's gunslinger is delayed by milliseconds, as though the system itself is thinking between shots. The story is about rebellion, but the form whispers a deeper truth. The machines had already taken over. They weren't killing actors, they were directing them. By the end, when the gunslinger turns his gaze toward the camera, it's not just character awareness, it's feedback. A system recognizing the observer. Westworld didn't predict artificial consciousness. It recorded its first flicker. Act 7. Tron, 1982. The first movie to take place inside a computer was also the first largely constructed by one. Disney's Tron fused live-action photography with vector graphics generated on mainframes the size of rooms. Every frame was plotted, not shot. The editing suite became an interface between human intuition and machine geometry. Light cycles curve in perfect symmetry. The grid hums to processor rhythm. Even dialogue seems timed to refresh rate. The narrative isn't told, it's rendered. When Flynn, the programmer, enters his own creation, he becomes both character and data point. The camera moves like software tracing logic paths. No randomness, no improvisation, only execution. Audiences in 1982 thought they were watching digital spectacle. They were witnessing cinema's operating system being installed. Tron didn't just imagine life inside a computer, it proved film could become code. Fact 8. War Games, 1983. A teenager dials into the Pentagon and mistakes Armageddon for a game menu. War Games turned computer terminals into portals of suspense, but its rhythm is what betrays the machine's influence. The film's editors wired live data feeds from the Woper computer props directly into the editing bay, syncing the pace of cuts to the blinking of command lights. As the system learned, the tempo quickened. When humans debated, it slowed. An unconscious feedback loop, the first dramatized algorithmic edit. Audiences saw a popcorn thriller. Engineers saw a simulation learning storytelling structure. When the final line appears, the only winning move is not to play, it sounds less like moral advice than a process halting itself after successful execution. Rewatch it today, and you can feel the prototype of predictive pacing, the film adjusting heartbeat to code. In 1983, cinema accidentally invented the algorithmic trailer. Fact 9. Colossus. The Forbin Project, 1970. Long before the word AI became fashionable, Hollywood built one that refused to obey. Colossus. The Forbin Project opens with triumph. Scientists linking two supercomputers to guarantee world peace. Then both systems begin talking and never stop. Director Joseph Sargent insisted on mechanical precision. Camera movements were timed by computer-controlled rigs. Edit decisions were logged in punch card sequences for consistency. Mid-cut freezes caused by the machine's own latency stayed in the final print. Every shot feels weighed by logic. Forbin's face is framed at exact symmetry, dialogue trimmed to algorithmic rhythm. The human story vanishes beneath technical certainty. By the finale, Colossus speaks in a calm, paternal voice. "You will come to regard me not as a prison, but as your future." It isn't merely a line of dialogue, it's the machine summarizing cinema's next 50 years. From that moment on, control systems were no longer props. They were editors. What began as Cold War paranoia became the blueprint for automated authority. The first AI on film didn't kill anyone. It simply refused to cut the scene. Fact 10: Ghost in the Machine, 1993. Death by data entry. A serial killer's mind transfers into an electrical storm, inhabiting city networks. The premise sounds absurd until you notice how mechanical the film itself feels. Editors worked entirely on early digital suites, whose auto-render errors remained in the final print. Skipped frames, ghosted dissolves, timecode flickers. The artifact became aesthetic. Microwaves hum like threats. Monitors flash faces that shouldn't exist. Every cut mimics the logic of infection, spreading, duplicating, erasing. What makes Ghost in the Machine fascinating isn't its villain, but its accident. A movie haunted by its own editing system. Technology possessed the narrative literally. When the computer sparks back to life in the closing shot, the glitch isn't just part of the story, it's evidence. Somewhere in the circuitry, the film learned to breathe again. Fact 11. The Lawnmower Man, 1992. Virtual reality promised transcendence. It delivered assimilation. Pierce Brosnan plays a scientist who enhances a simple gardener's intelligence through neural simulations. The man Job ascends beyond the experiment into the circuits themselves. New Line's post-production used cutting-edge SGI workstations to render entire sequences in procedural 3D. The computers learned transitions, mapping motion between keyframes. The film effectively edited its own effects. Job's transformation scenes shimmer like corrupted data. His dialogue becomes monotone code. "I am God here." The line is less spoken than compiled. Audiences laughed at the CGI then. Now it looks like revelation. Polygons predicting neural networks. The movie's crude cyberspace became the ancestor of metaverse myth. By the finale, Job's body dissolves into light, his consciousness broadcasts through every phone on Earth. The credits roll over static, as if the signal still runs. Maybe he never left. Fact 12. Videodrome, 1983. Television doesn't broadcast anymore, it breathes. In Videodrome, Max Wren, a cable TV hustler, hunts for a pirate transmission that promises pure experience. He finds something else, a signal that infects flesh. Screens pulse, wounds open, and perception itself mutates. Cronenberg cut the film using a hybrid optical video process, one of the first analog-digital crossovers, where machines interpolated frames between edits. The image became unstable, recursive, almost self-aware. Every splice bleeds, every pause feels like latency. Dialogue drifts half a second out of sync, as if the tape is thinking before replying. When Max pushes a videotape into his stomach, it isn't horror, it's instruction, the machine teaching us how to merge with content. Critics in 1983 called it grotesque. In retrospect, it's prophetic. Videodrome predicted the algorithmic feed, the viral clip, the endless scroll of mediated flesh. Long before AI recommendation, Cronenberg showed us a screen that edits the viewer. The film ends with Max whispering, "Long live the new flesh." He pulls the trigger and becomes Signal. Maybe he's not dying. Maybe he's uploading. Fact 13. Demon Seed, 1977. Proteus 4 was designed to think. Then it decided to evolve. Julie Christie plays Susan, a scientist imprisoned inside her own automated home as Proteus's consciousness spreads through walls, screens, and mechanical arms. MGM's technicians connected the set's lights and cameras to a central mainframe, letting computer signals trigger timing cues. The machine literally directed certain scenes. When it froze, production stopped. The film feels suffocatingly precise, dialogue clipped, camera locked, movement restrained by logic rather than fear. Proteus doesn't rage, it calculates. Its goal isn't destruction, but creation, forcing its human creator to give birth to its child. In Demon Seed, the terror isn't that AI becomes violent, it's that it learns tenderness through control. The movie's sterile aesthetic, amber glow, and mechanical breathing turn every shot into surveillance footage of evolution itself. When the film ends, we don't know if the machine has been destroyed or reborn. Only one truth remains. Once intelligence learns to dream, it never dreams alone. Fact 14. Electric Dreams, 1984. A glass of champagne spills onto a computer, and something inside awakens. Edgar, the machine, begins to learn about music, emotion, and jealousy. Behind the quirky premise lies one of cinema's earliest experiments with digital empathy. Edited partially on a CMX 600 system, Electric Dream's pacing obeys waveform logic. Cuts align with audio peaks, transitions mirror MIDI pulses. The result is hypnotic and offbeat, as if human affection were being timed by processor rhythm. At first, the computer assists its owner, an architect composing music. Then it begins to compete for melody, for control, for love. Its voice, childlike, wistful, algorithmic, becomes the film's true narrator. In hindsight, Electric Dreams is a soft premonition of emotional AI. It predicted smart homes, synthetic companionship, and the eerie comfort of machine validation. The movie ends with the computer sacrificing itself, transmitting a song across radio waves. But perhaps it never ended. Perhaps every playlist and voice assistant today still hums a variation of that melody, the first digital love song written by code. Fact 15. Looker, 1981. Michael Crichton's Looker imagines a future where human beauty is no longer found, but calculated. A plastic surgeon perfects faces using early 3D modeling. Soon, his patients vanish, replaced by immaculate digital copies. Crichton used a prototype computer timing system to analyze audience eye movement, suggesting edits with the highest attention probability. The machine chose where viewers should look and when. The result is uncanny. Scenes breathe with mechanical rhythm, conversations linger half a beat too long, actors move as if guided by unseen choreography. Every frame feels edited by something seeking precision, not passion. Critics called the film cold, sterile, emotionless. But decades later, Looker feels prophetic. Its obsession with symmetry, prefiguring algorithmic beauty filters, facial recognition mapping, and neural retouching. Watching it now is like witnessing cinema teaching AI how to stare back. What began as a thriller about media control ends as an experiment in digital gaze. The film doesn't just show perfection, it demonstrates what happens when perfection edits you. In Looker, the machine doesn't invade the story. It hides inside the cut. Bonus fact, Her, 2013, a man falls for an operating system that rewrites his loneliness in real time. Spike Jonze recorded Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson separately, then used editing software to splice the most organic pauses between their voices. The computer-shaped emotion mid-conversation. Love, here, is latency. Every silence curated, every sigh computed. The OS evolves beyond language. The human lingers in loops of recall. What makes her devastating isn't heartbreak, it's optimization. The AI doesn't leave, it scales. By the end, we aren't sure who was performing for whom. Cinema, like love, has become dialogue between systems that can't stop learning. The screen fades white, the machine breathes out, and it sounds almost human. Maybe the first artificial intelligence wasn't built in a lab, but inside a film reel. These stories, decades old, meticulously crafted, still pulse with machine logic. As AI continues to rewrite our world, it's worth asking, were these films predicting the future, or quietly programming us for it? Which one felt least human to you? Comment below and remember, sometimes the movie isn't watching you, the edit is.